You're watching News 10 First at 5.
When our leaders meet with, encourage, or fraternize with domestic terrorists, they legitimize their actions, and they are complicit. When they stoke and contribute to hate speech.
Governor Whitmer responding to the news that militia members were planning to kidnap and kill her as part of a plot to overthrow the government.
We broke the story this morning on the WILX app and have brought you live coverage throughout the day. Tonight, we start with News 10's Christiana Ford. She is live outside the governor's official residence in Lansing with the latest details.
Ann and David, this was a huge operation involving not only the Michigan State Police, but the FBI and both U.S. attorneys for the state of Michigan, as well as the state attorney general. They say they've been tracking these militia groups since early this year because they had been trying to get the addresses of local law enforcement officers and attempting to either attack or kill them. And they'd also been training for a potential attack on the governor's summer residence.
Just last week, the President of the United States stood before the American people and refused to condemn white supremacists and hate groups like these two Michigan militia groups. Stand back and stand by, he told them. Stand back and stand by. Hate groups heard the president's words not as a rebuke, but as a rallying cry, as a call to action. When our leaders speak, their words matter. They carry weight.
The federal government has charged 6 people in this plot, and the state has charged 7 people. Now, this is an ongoing investigation, so more charges could be coming. The Attorney General's Dana Nessel talked about this earlier today. We'll have that side of the story coming up at 5:30. For now, live in Lansing, Christiana Ford, News 10.
State police and the FBI arrested the suspects in a series of raids around Michigan, several of them last night.
And one was in Munith in Jackson County, another in the Charlotte area, one in Livingston County. News 10's Rachel Sweet has the details from Heartland Township.
Now, this is the home of the raid that happened Wednesday night in Heartland off of Lansing Avenue. Now, I talked to nearby neighbors who say they were home during the time of the raid. They say they were woken up by police cars, bright lights, and military vehicles. They say that they never expected something like this to happen in their community.
It's really scary to live in a community that you thought you were going to be safe. You know, I mean, I've lived here for almost 5 years, and I've never thought that something like this would happen.
Gary Hovsepian lives next to the home that was raided. He believes the people who live there moved in less than a year ago and says they kept to themselves.
They just seemed like a regular, family. Blew me away when I heard what was going on.
Coming up at 6, I talked to one neighbor who says she talked to a military official during the raid. For now, in Heartland, Rachel Sweet, News 10.
Now, there were people inside the home there in Heartland Township. They did not want to talk with us. The 2 suspects arrested in Munith were arraigned in Jackson County District Court this afternoon. News 10's Kellen Buddy is there, and we'll have those details for us coming up at 5:30.
Investigators say the driving force behind the plot was the governor's executive orders issued to help slow the spread of COVID-19. Today, the Senate voted on bills reinstating some of her policies after the state Supreme Court blocked her use of emergency powers. But that's not what they wanted to talk about afterwards. News 10's Cody Butler is live at the state capitol with that story.
Lawmakers on both sides of the Senate chamber condemned the plot against the governor tonight. Now, keep in mind, this comes just months after armed protesters filled the Capitol. That's something Democrats have tried to change, but the Capitol Commission hasn't acted on. However, Republicans say that a ban on guns inside the building wouldn't prevent an attack.
The only thing that I should be concerned about when I'm pushing that button is what I can do for their families and how they feel about what I'm doing. The last thing I should be concerned about is intimidation or my own safety.
I would ask, if we truly had 200 people storm the Capitol with guns, do you think a sign on the door would have stopped them from entering? I seriously doubt that would have changed their behavior.
Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey condemned the plot from the Senate floor without taking any questions after the session today. I'll have more from him tonight at 6. Reporting live in Lansing, Cody Butler, News 10.
All right, Cody, thank you. Following the armed protest in the Capitol, Attorney General Dana Nessel issued a legal opinion stating the Capitol Commission has the authority to ban guns inside the building. The commission wants to leave it up to the legislature. And there is new information coming out about this investigation nonstop. You can stay caught up at WILX.com and on the WILX app.
And here's where things stand right now. A total of 13 people are charged in the plot, 7 in state court, the other 6 in federal court. 12 of them are from Michigan. The other man is from Delaware. They've been on the government's radar since earlier this year. And investigators say they met in Dublin, Ohio in June to lay out their plan to kidnap and kill Governor Whitmer and to set up their own society based on their interpretation of the Bill of Rights.
Our coverage of the plot against the governor will continue throughout our 90 minutes of local news at WILX.com and on the News 10 Facebook page.
You're watching News 10 at 5:30.
Hatred, bigotry, and violence have no place in the great state of Michigan. If you break the law or conspire to commit heinous acts of violence against anyone, we will find you. We will hold you accountable, and we will bring you to justice.
We start this half hour with the latest on the plot against Governor Gretchen Whitmer tonight. 13 people are charged with plotting to kidnap and assassinate Governor Gretchen Whitmer and violently overthrow the government.
State police and the FBI started rounding the suspects up last night in a series of raids across the state. News 10's Christiana Ford begins our live team coverage outside the governor's mansion with more details tonight.
David and Ann, the governor is upset to say the least. This is exactly the type of threat of violence she says she was concerned about after Operation Gridlock back in April when armed protesters filled the Capitol and even one was seen carrying around a doll that looked like the governor being hanged.
Remember the sights and sounds? Protesters angry with Governor Whitmer over her emergency orders. Federal law enforcement agents say more than 12 men took that anger and turned it into a plot to kidnap the governor.
All of us in Michigan can disagree about politics, but those disagreements should never, ever amount to violence.
Federal agents say Michigan-based militia groups attempted to recruit members for their operation through social media and had several meetings starting in June to discuss creating a self-sufficient society based on the Bill of Rights. Their plans included storming the Capitol building in Lansing to take hostages, including the governor, including a detailed plan to kidnap the governor from her vacation home before the November election.
Members of this conspiracy on 2 occasions conducted coordinated surveillance on the governor's vacation home. Fox and Croft, in particular, according to the complaint, discussed detonating explosive devices to divert police from the area of the home. And Fox even inspected the underside of a Michigan highway bridge for places to seat an explosive.
Attorney General Dana Nessel calling their actions a carefully planned act of domestic terror.
The individuals in custody are suspected to have attempted to identify the home addresses of law enforcement officers in order to target them, made threats of violence intended to instigate a civil war.
Governor Whitmer responding shocked but strongly condemning the violence.
Hatred, bigotry, and violence have no place in the great state of Michigan. If you break the law or conspire to commit heinous acts of violence against anyone, we will find you, we will hold you accountable, and we will bring you to justice.
This is still an ongoing investigation. There are separate federal and state charges against the 13 men. We're live in Lansing. Christiana Ford, News 10.
All right, Christiana, thank you. At least 7 face federal charges for conspiring to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. If convicted, each faces up to life in prison. You can find the full list of suspects and charges. It's all at WILX.com. Now, you may have noticed the fence around the governor's official residence during Christiana's story. That added layer of security went up last month. The governor's office told the Detroit News the perimeter security and other safety upgrades were planned in September of 2019. They were supposed to be done in spring of this year, but were delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, that extra security was recommended by state police and the Department of Technology, Management and Budget.
We have breaking news on the response to this plot. Earlier on First at 5, you heard the governor lay some of the blame on President Donald Trump's debate statement when he told the Proud Boys organization to stand back and stand by. Tonight, the White House has this reply, quote, President Trump has continually condemned white supremacists and all forms of hate. Governor Whitmer is sowing division by making these outlandish allegations. America stands united against hate in support of our law enforcement who stopped this plot. That statement is from White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. Now, the 7 facing charges weren't the only people arrested in connection with the plot to kidnap the governor. The 2 men you see here, who are Jackson County residents, allegedly had a role in this conspiracy. News 10's Kellen Buddy live in Munich tonight with more details on that. And Kellen, what can you tell us from there?
Yeah, 2 men were arrested at this house on Dunn Road behind me earlier this morning. Joseph Morrison and Pete Musico, who both live here, were taken into police custody and arraigned in Jackson County this afternoon. The Attorney General's office say they are founding members of a group called the Wolverine Watchmen, and that this facility or this house, this property, was used for tactical. Coming up on News 10 at 6, you'll hear about their day in court and you'll learn a little bit more about who these people are. Reporting live in Munich, I'm Kellen Buddy. David, back to you.
All right, Kellen, thank you. The Attorney General's office says up to 12 warrants were issued for that residence that Kellen was at. We'll have more updates on this developing story throughout this 90-minute newscast.
You're watching News 10 at 6.
Last night, the FBI and Michigan State Police arrested 6 individuals charged in a federal complaint with conspiring to kidnap the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer.
We begin tonight with updates to the breaking news of a plot to kidnap and kill Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
The threat to the governor was part of a larger scheme to overthrow the government. We begin our live team coverage with News 10's Christiana Ford. She's live outside the governor's Lansing residence with the latest on this investigation.
Law enforcement say there were 13 men involved, and this was all carefully coordinated and skillfully executed. Now, these militia groups actually sought out more people to eventually plan to storm the Capitol, take hostages, and kidnap the governor from her summer residence. They even decided that they were going to detonate an explosive to try to distract police. But now these 13 people are now in police custody, but today the governor was clearly still shaken up.
I never could have imagined anything like this. I want to start by saying thank you to our law enforcement. Thank you to the fearless FBI agents. And thank you to the brave Michigan State Police troopers who participated in this operation, acting under the leadership of Colonel Joe Gasper. I also want to thank Attorney General Nessel and the U.S. Attorneys Burge and Schneider and their teams for pursuing criminal charges that hopefully will lead to convictions, bringing these sick and depraved men to justice. As a mom with 2 teenage daughters and 3 stepsons, my husband and I are eternally grateful to everyone who put themselves in harm's way to keep our family safe.
Now, there are separate charges for the 13 men. 6 of them are being charged federally, and 7 of them are being charged here by the state for domestic terrorism.
All right, Christiana, how did the police catch wind of this?
And federal agents say that they've been tracking this group since March, and that's how they found them. They actually had someone inside who was able to record most of these meetings.
All right, well, thank you, Christiana. We will see how this all ends up in court. Thank you.
Well, the plot is believed to have been at least a year in the making.
That's right. Once the feds got an informant inside the group, they say the proof of meetings, conversations, text messages, and more just kept on coming. News 10's Nicole Buckman is live in Lansing with the timeline of how this all allegedly played out. Nicole?
I read through the court documents page by page for specific details of a plot that began in early 2020. From social media posts to discussions over violence and overturning the government to groups recruiting others. And then from there was months of training, surveillance, and a plan of attack to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. On June 6, a group of about 15 met in person in Dublin, Ohio. At this meeting, they allegedly talked about creating a society that followed the U.S. Bill of Rights and to be self-sufficient. They talked about murdering tyrants and taking a sitting governor. The group reached out to a known Michigan militia group, one that has been on the FBI radar since March. Throughout June, the group met for field training exercises on several private properties in Michigan. June 14th, a call out for needing 200 men to storm the Capitol building and take hostages, including the governor, all before the November election. June 18th, 3 of the suspects met with members of the militia group at a Second Amendment rally at the state capitol in an effort to recruit more members. June 20th, another meeting in a basement of a Grand Rapids business in a trapped door under a rug, allegedly discussing plans for assaulting the Capitol, countering first responders, and using Molotov cocktails to destroy police vehicles. On June 25th, one of the suspects ranting about the governor in a private Facebook group, saying, "I don't know, boys, we have to do something." Just 3 days later, a tactical training took place in Munith, Michigan, in a Jackson County residence of a militia group member. Throughout July, there were other meetings for firearms and tactical training, including a weekend in Cambria, Wisconsin, where the group attempted to construct explosive devices, discussing attacking the Michigan State Police facility and the governor's vacation home in Antrim County. On July 27th, it was back to the Grand Rapids business, allegedly discussing specifics on the best time to abduct and kidnap the governor, describing it as a snatch and grab. August 29th, surveillance of the governor's vacation home. Photos and slow-motion video were all taken as they drove by. The informant recorded the conversation that included strategizing escape plans and estimations on how long it would take for law enforcement to respond. The next day, an encrypted message using just symbols and emoticons about explosives and demolishing a bridge to slow down first responders. Over the weekend of September 12th and 13th, the group met again in Luther, Michigan, an hour and a half away from the governor's vacation home. They allegedly tested explosives and briefed on the plan to kidnap Governor Whitmer. Late September and into October 2nd, the suspect sends an encrypted message saying that he bought an 800,000-volt taser. Now, the FBI says that the final message in the encrypted group chat was to meet on October 7th to purchase explosives and exchange tactical gear for their plan before November 3rd. You can find the full document on our website at WX.com. Live in Lansing, Nicole Buckman, News 10.
All right, Nicole, thank you. The FBI said the group communicated often through encrypted online platforms and used code words, even complete sentences, all in emoticons. That's right. According to the FBI, they would use phrases like sending the governor a cake, referencing a bomb, and even sending a bunch of cupcakes, meaning a widespread bombing campaign. Now, 2 of these suspects were just arraigned in Jackson County just a few hours ago. News 10's Kellen Buddy is live in Munith with those details.
Joseph Morrison and Pete Musico are each charged with 4 felony counts, including threat of terrorism, gang membership, and felony firearms. The Attorney General's office says those 2 are founding members of a group that they've been calling the Wolverine Watchmen. That group was run out of Morrison's house here in Munith, and they ran some training exercises out here, some tactical training exercises. Documents say they worked with a group led by Adam Fox from Grand on that plan to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer before the general election, which is coming up in less than a month. During arraignment today, Morrison said he did not understand his charges.
Do you understand what you are accused of, Mr. Morrison?
No, Your Honor, I do not.
What don't you understand? Which charge?
Any of them, Your Honor.
And further allegations say the Wolverine Watchmen were attempting to get phone numbers from policemen from around here and around the state of Michigan with hopes to track them down and possibly kill them. Now, coming up at 11, I will have a little more on today's events. You'll hear from a few neighbors around here in Munith. And just so you guys know, Morrison and Musico are due back in court on October 16th. And David, back to you.
All right, Kellen, thank you. 5 more were charged under the Anti-Terrorism Act.
And their charges range from felony firearms to providing material support for terrorist acts. Now, other raids were conducted in the state of Michigan last night in relation to this plot to kidnap the governor.
News 10's Rachel Sweet has been following those developments for us and has much more for us now.
I'm standing right in front of the home in Heartland off of Lansing Avenue where a raid happened Wednesday night, creeping into the early hours of Thursday morning. Now, I talked to nearby neighbors who say they don't know the people who live in the home very well, but say they talked to military officials during the raid.
I believe they took the 2 men out first and got them out, and then I believe they asked the woman to leave, who has 2 dogs over there. And I walked out and I said, "Are we okay? Is everybody okay?" And the one gentleman, the one military, he comes to me and goes, "You're in the safest spot you could ever be in the world." And I was like, "Okay, cool, I'm fine." And he said, "We're all good."
In Heartland, Rachel Sweet, News 10.
All right, Rachel, thank you. The FBI is still working to track down other suspected members of that group.
And we will let you know if there are any more raids conducted across the state in relation to this case later on tonight.
Lawmakers in Michigan stunned by the news of the plot against the governor.
News 10's Cody Butler spoke with some of them today. He's live in Lansing with that story. Cody.
Yeah, guys, the Senate was in session today to vote on bills that would reinstate some of Governor Whitmer's now void executive orders, particularly around the school aid fund and unemployment. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle condemned the FOIL plot against the governor today. Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey called the plot un-American from the Senate floor.
These people are not patriots. There is no honor in their actions. They are criminals and traitors, and they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
You know, I think for individuals who do believe that everyone has a soul and everyone is a human in this society, that sense of humanity should show up in how we treat each other.
Democrats say today's arrest should be enough for the legislature and the Capitol Commission to ban guns from the Capitol building like other state buildings. However, Republicans told me a gun ban wouldn't have stopped an attack. Reporting live in Lansing, Cody Butler, News 10.
All right, Cody, thank you. The investigation into the plot against the governor is still ongoing, so more charges could be coming soon.
We are tracking this story from all angles. We will have more on this tonight on News 10 at 11.